Shabbat Shalom to everyone this morning. What a beautiful day to be into the house of Yahweh. Where else would you want to be, right? Just want to say welcome to everyone that came out this morning to worship together and enjoy our time together as a mishpachah, a large family. And we have lots of family out there in the world that we need to reach out to and to welcome them into God's spiritual house. So, hope this has been a good week for each one and every one of you. To me, it's always good to wake up on this side of the dirt. And as we grow a little older, I think you get more aware of that and more thankful every day for the very essence of life, the very breath that He has breathed into each one of us, physically and spiritually. Do you have His spiritual breath within you? That is the question, and that is what we all should strive for and to do and to be. I want to ask a question of everyone. Where do you see yourself at in the great plan of things? Do you feel like that you've been called for a reason and a purpose? Do you see yourself as just a studier, or are you a teacher? Are you a student? Or how about all the above? Exactly. How about those that are called to stand on the walls and to be to look out for things, right? Watchman on the wall. Do you feel like that you are a watchman on the wall, or is that somebody else's calling, somebody else's work that they need to be doing? I think that every one of us should be watchmen on the wall. That's what He's called us for. And what is watchman on the wall supposed to do? Sound the alarm, right? Sound the alarm. We are to look out for our brethren and for the world in general, and to sound the alarm when things are going on that we see, that we need to make sure to wake up. You know, it says throughout Isaiah was a watchman on the wall for many years, not only for his time, but it reaches all the way, because when you read Isaiah, those are end time prophecies and things that he is saying. It's not just the time that he lived in, but all the way down to the end. It says, "Awake, awake, O Israel." Yeah. So if we're Israel, we need to make sure that we're awake, and that means that we're also aware of what's going on around us. Okay? And I know some people feel like that, man, all y'all want to do is teach gloom and doom. All you want to talk about is the bad things. We want to talk about love and joy and peace and all these type of things, which is what we need. But aren't we called to be that watchman when we see these things, to bring it to the attention of not only our brethren, but the world in general, because we are responsible for our neighbor, right? That's what we just said, is that we should also be our neighbor's keeper, so to speak, our brother's keeper. So I know that sometimes that we feel like, well, we're going around and around, and sometimes we feel like, you know, man, let's talk about all the good things. But you know, the good things go to those that have known the truth, okay, and wants more and more of the truth. Because to me, that's what brings joy to me, is to know more of the Father's calling that He has on me and on each one of us, that we be bearers of the truth where we have the opportunity. And not that we're to cram it down, but we are to be those beacons of light. How can you be a beacon of light if you don't want to talk to anybody about anything? Or we're scared that we might offend somebody, or we might talk about their upbringing and their beliefs that they were brought up in. So, just want to see a few things about that, because I've had people say that we need more love and less law, maybe. But that's what it says. So if you love me, keep my commandments. So that's really the love that we're looking for. Not only the love of us to the Father, but the Father's love to us. And that's what he says. If you love me, keep my commandments. And so hopefully that will help somewhere, some ways. The other thing I've heard and seen that a lot of people say, well, where are all the miracles? Where is the Spirit that's moving? We're supposed to be in an age where that we're to do greater things than he. And so a lot of people get this idea, well, y'all don't have any miracles in your church, and so you know better than the church next door. I just wonder, how many times have y'all had a miracle in your life? Maybe we need the definition of a miracle then, maybe. It's a miracle that you awake every morning. We take those things for granted. We don't look at them as real happenings or miracles or types of things. How about the testimonies that you have? Aren't those miracles? To bring you out from the darkness that maybe that you were in. We have, as Americans, we want everything right now, right? So we've got to this point that it's gimme, gimme, gimme. And God said, well, I've been giving you. I've been doing all these things. You don't recognize it. You're taking it for granted. So sometimes there's very small things that happen that in your life that were really miracles and you didn't realize it. How about, I'm sure that a lot of you've had times that maybe you were going somewhere in a hurry or whatever, and maybe you were 10 seconds late. Yet when you got to this intersection, if you'd been 10 seconds further ahead, you might have got into a serious accident. Is that not a miracle? Or is that just happen chance? See, we've taken these little things and said, well, that just happened. That's nothing. God wasn't involved in that. It's just something that happened. Well, we know that there is no coincidences in the Father. That everything he says and does is for a reason and a purpose. And that we don't have to live our life by happen chance. Okay? Because we have a greater hope than what we see every day. That hope is to strive to be that person and to live life forever. Have an everlasting life. As long as you're in this world, to have that life, and that when you pass in the resurrection, that you'll be granted all life forever. So these are some of the things that I've been thinking about this week, because I look around and I see a lot of these things that are taking place, and sometimes, I say, well, man, I just took that for granted. It wasn't no big deal. I want to tell you an experience that I had this week that really brought these things more fully to the front of my mind was we were in Seminole this week picking up a double wide, and it was Monday. And Monday was a very windy day here, more so in Seminole. If you've ever traveled much, when you go north, the wind is always stronger the further north that you go, and particularly the Seminole area, because it's such a flatland farmland. So there's nothing there to really stop the wind except a a barbed wire fence, as we always say, between us and the North Pole. But anyway, in the process of picking up this double wide, they come in two pieces. And when you open them up, it's all open. Everything part of that house is all open, including the roof and all the doors and windows and everything is open. So we're sitting there and split this double wide, and the wind had been blowing, and it began to blow more. It was gusting to 30 miles an hour, which is pretty heavy when you're out straight out in the wind. We were broadside to the wind also. And so to make these things where you can move them, you have to wrap them. In other words, you have to cover that whole area of that home with, we use tarps. Some people use a heavy-duty plastic. We use tarps. So these tarps are like 15 foot wide, 60 foot long. So you have to climb up on top of the house with these. And you're about 15 foot off the ground. The wind is always higher up here. So we've got 3 men up on top, and we're trying to put this tarp. You nail it on the edge, and then you flip it over, and it goes down, and you cover it. Well, we had struggled trying to get this done, and we got one half of it down, and we were all 4 of us holding it down while we were trying to nail it on. And so it occurred to me, I said, Father, I need some help. If this wind doesn't lay, it's going to be very hard for us to finish the job that we're trying to do and to cover all of this, because it's wide open to the outside elements and so forth and so on. So, and that was just about the time that we finished that half, and so we had another half to wrap. And I'm really asking the Father to lay the wind down, that at least lower it amount that we could do this, because it's very dangerous to be up on the roof with tarp, because if tarp gets up like this and you're holding it, it can blow you off. So said that prayer a couple of times, and so all of us got down. We finished that, and so we're getting everything ready to go to the other half, and the wind stopped. And I'm not talking about just lowering. It stopped, dead stop. And it had been blowing all day, gusting to 30. And my guys said, wow, the wind stopped. I mean, it wasn't even a breeze. So, amen. So if you think that these small things are just happen chance, or you think that, well, he really doesn't hear, these are just mundane things that we do. He is very attentive of all your prayers and all of your needs in these situations. So it was just a reinforcement of my trust in the Father. Because sometimes that we think that, well, just one of those things, and we'll go on about our business and so on and so forth. So one of the reasons that I did that today was because, what about Jacob? Did he see some miracles in this Torah portion? Did he see some things that God did for him? That I'm sure that he prayed earnestly, particularly when it comes to time to meet his brother. And the grounds that they departed on was, when I get through grieving about our father, I'm coming after you, and I'm going to kill you. Can you imagine? So I'm sure that Jacob spent much time on his knees, but there was an experience a couple of experiences that he had to have to prepare him for that time. So this is what the Torah portion is about, and I hope that y'all related this to your own personal struggles that we have every day, because these are not just stories of people long ago. They are, number one, about our family, and number two, they have a present-day application. Can we put ourselves in that story, in that happening, and examine ourselves? What would we do? Can you imagine going through the time, 20 years of your life, working for someone that took advantage of you, and all these different things? How would you feel? Would you be calm? Would you be still praising God? Or would you be mumbling and grumbling and say, man, and if I ever get a chance to get out of the way from this guy, I might even, what do we do today maybe? Maybe would you entertain the idea that I think we're going to sue this guy. He breached his promise with me. He had a covenant with me, and he broke it. So these are some of the things that I hope that as you read the Torah portion this day, we're going to try to cover some of the things and maybe look at some other details within and see how that we fit into this picture. Vayi'shlach, it means, and he sent. Amen. Amen, brother. We invite the Holy Spirit and God's angels to be in our midst today, and that as we read this Torah portion, that we receive a blessing by being in it. So we're going to start with Genesis 32:1. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of Elohim met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is Elohim's host." And he called the name of that place Mayaniah. That's interesting word that we're going to look at. It says this is Elohim's host. Well, we begin to think, well, it was just some angels that come to see him and so forth and so on. But a host sounds like more than one or two people. As we read the definitions of these words, we're going to see that this is God's army that he sent. God's army. How many times has God sent his army already? And maybe we're going to go on and we're going to see all these times. Has he ever sent an army for you? I think so sometimes. Maybe we didn't realize or recognize it as his army. Okay? We're going to look at this word. It's from 2583. It says an encampment of travelers or troops. Hence an army, whether literally of soldiers or figuratively of dancers, angels, cattle, locusts, stars, or even the sacred court. Army, band, battle, camp, company, drove, host, tents. So we get this whole idea that God has sent his army down there. For number one, to pull Jacob out of there. Okay? The other one is to protect him. Because if you remember our last week's Torah portion, that there was angels up and down on Jacob's ladder. These were protecting angels also. He said, I will send an angel with you down there to protect you. He says, everywhere that you go, I'm going to be there with you. So what a promise, man. What do you think? Well, yeah, he's with us spiritually, We're talking about, I'm going to send my angels with you, and they're going to look after you, and they're going to protect you. So as we go on, we can also look at this same word because it's a place in Palestine. Okay? So it's interesting that there would be, he called this place that name And so it's still today considered a place, okay? But we're going to look at Deuteronomy 23:14 says, "For Yahweh thy Elohim walks in the midst of thy camp to deliver you and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee. Turn away from thee." Wow. You ever think about that? He's ready there with his camp to protect you. He's in his army. But if we don't see it as such, and we defile his army, or defile his place there, he says, I'm not going to walk in defilement. And we're talking about your personal temple. It says if he sees any unclean thing there, he will turn away from you. So these are some of the things that we're going to look at today. Do you think that he looked at Jacob? Did he see maybe some unclean things there? Maybe he was there to help correct. Of course, the next one is angel. It's Malach. Malach is unused meaning to dispatch as a deputy, a messenger, specifically of God, that is an angel, also a prophet, priest, or teacher, ambassador, angel, king, and messenger. So we see throughout the scriptures where these angel appears, okay? And we see that they're messengers. We see this in the book of Revelation. It's full of angels, messengers. Why are they sent there? Because they have a message for God's people. So we just need to be attuned a little bit more to God's presence, his angels that he sends. Maybe he sends it in the form of a man. It's like he says, a prophet or whatever. We're going to look at Joshua 5:13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us, or for our adversaries? And he said, Nay, but as captain of the host of Yahweh am I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, What saith my master unto his servant? Wow, there is some really interesting things here, because we know that the scripture, what does the scripture say about worshiping angels? It says, no. But who is this? Yeshua himself is there as the captain of the host, captain of the army, ready to do battle for you, because they were fixing to go up to take Jericho. And the captain of Yahweh's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place wherein that thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. That's some of that, the fear of God we talk about here. We're talking about reverence, right? If we really believe that Yeshua was standing here in this place, how would we act? How would we appear? What would we say? What would we do? What would we wear? All of these different types of things. We invite the Holy Spirit to be here every Shabbat, right? And his angels. It just puts a little bit more burden upon us that we make sure that our tent is clean, our body is clean, that no defilement, because he says, I'm not going to walk in your assembly if it's defiled. Genesis 32, back to Genesis 32:3, and Jacob messengers before him to Esau his brother unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. Okay? Edom is, of course, his brother Esau. Okay? And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall you speak unto my master Esau. Thy servant Jacob says thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have oxen and asses and flocks and men servants and women servants. and I have sent to tell my master that I may find grace in thy sight. Wow. What a humbling thing that he did. Could we be that humble to go to our adversaries, particularly our brother that has swore to kill us? And he called him Master. Give us grace. Well, this whole thing is what turned this whole situation around, was his humbleness, his asking for grace, these types of things. Sent is one of the words that we looked at. Says a primitive root to send away, for, out, to sow, spread, stretch forth. Okay? Vayi'shlach. So if we look at these words, we see how that they have applying to us in our situations. Going on in Genesis 32:6, and the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee. And oh, by the way, he's got 400 men with him. Whoa. Whoa. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels, into 2 bands. And he said, If Esau come to the one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O Elohim of my father Abraham, and Elohim of my father Isaac, Yahweh which saith unto me, Return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. He's going like to the father. He says, What is this all about? You told me to return to my father's place. You knew that my brother's going to be there on the way. And you said that you would deal well with me. Isn't that the way that we're supposed to approach these things? Not on our own, but up on our Father's promises. Yeah. Instead of saying, man, if he's got 400 men, how many men we got back there? Did we train anybody? Did y'all bring your swords? We can take these people. Maybe I'll send one this way and we'll circle around the back and get them. No, he said, Father, you're the one that told me to do this. You're the one that said that you would take care of me everywhere I went. Genesis 32:10, I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto me. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become 2 bands, or 2 houses. Ezekiel 37:15-17. The word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee 1 stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions. And join them one to another into 1 stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. Don't you think maybe that was a prayer also in Joshua? It says, Father, save. I'm divided myself in 2 here. Save me and put these back together again. Could this be a forerunner prophecy, prophesying of this thing in Ezekiel? Because we know the whole story as it goes on into the rest of the Torah portions, that we see that the 10 and the 2 tribes are divided and become scattered throughout the nations. But here is the hope, and here is the promise that he's going to put these back together. That's, my friend, is where we are today, in my opinion. This is the fulfilling of that prophecy, is to bring all of Israel back together once again. So we are called to do our part, to do that. So going on in Ezekiel 37, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou mean by thee? Say unto them, Thus saith the sovereign Yahweh, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. This whole thing right here is such a controversial subject, is what's so crazy about this thing. Because it's in the scriptures, and that's what it says, and that's what it does. But people say, well, that's that two-house theory. Yes, it's two houses, all right. But God is saying, I'm going to bring them back together and become one house. Why is that so hard to understand? Why is it so hard that we want to just tear it apart and say, no, that's crazy people over there doing that, when it's in the scripture? Says, the sticks wherewith thou writest shall be in thine hand before their eyes, and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. Going on, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Some people believe that all that already took place a long time ago. That's why that they're called Jews. The word Jews, or Jew, comes from the word Judah. And Judah is only one tribe. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their Elohim. And David my servant shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. That's the rest of the story here, right? Who's going to be their king? Yeah, said King David. Goes right back to Yeshua. It's not Benjamin Nahu. It's not any other leader over there or anywhere else. That's the problem. As he read this morning about in Samuel's time, they come to Samuel and says, Give us a king like the rest of the nations. He said, okay, but you're not going to like it. But that's the same thing that we're seeing today. We need to make sure that that king is the Messiah, Yeshua. Not some type of government. Not some one man. Yeshua himself. And to walk in my judgment, observe my statutes, and do them. Then we now look at Jeremiah, the prophet. Jeremiah 30, verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Thus speaketh Yahweh Elohim of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken to thee in a book. For lo, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith Yahweh, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. In reality, all of the earth is Yahweh's, right? Isn't that going to be the gathering of all people? Not just in a little bitty nation of Israel? And these are the words that Yahweh spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. And thus Saith Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it, even the time of Jacob's trouble. But he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off of thy neck, and will burst thy bounds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. Jacob's trouble. Well, that's what our Torah portion is really about, is time of Jacob's trouble. 20 years of servitude. Now to meet his brother that's out to kill him. Wouldn't you figure that was the time of Jacob's trouble? Do we not see what we're in the midst of is Jacob's trouble, maybe? Particularly, we see that more so in Israel itself, being surrounded by all the nations of the other world, and really by their half-brothers and their brother, because Edomites still there, Ishmaelites is still there, surrounding them, want to kick them off into the ocean. So that's part of Jacob's trouble. But they shall serve Yahweh their Elohim, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith Yahweh, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all the nations, whether I have scattered you, yet will I not make a full end of thee. That is a promise. We could look in Ephesians 2:10. For we are his workmanship, created in the Messiah Yeshua unto good works, which Elohim hath before ordained that we should walk in them. Wherefore remember that you being in times past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called circumcision in the flesh, made by hands, that at that time you were without the Messiah, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope, and without Yahweh in the world. See, that's the problem. We've been taught in Christianity that there's still two camps. Here's the Gentiles over here, and they'll never be over here, and that this is Judah or Jews or whatever you want to call it over here. That's still the problem. Two camps. And he's calling for the camps to be put back together. Okay? And to put that back together, he says, that they will walk in my statutes and obey my commandments and all these types of things. That is what is the glue that binds them back together. Then you're no longer Gentiles. You're grafted in to the commonwealth of Israel. But now the Messiah, Yeshua, you who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of the Messiah. Romans 11:13. For I speak to you Gentiles, and as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I have magnified mine office, if by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? This is our brothers stuck in Judaism, not wanting to accept the Messiah, still looking for a Messiah. In fact, they have found one. There is a young man that knows the Torah. He can tell you the Torah word for word from Genesis all the way through Deuteronomy and tell you what it means. And he's in probably his mid-30s. He is the rabbi of all rabbis. He has all the rabbis coming to him. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy, and if the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, and with them partake of the root and fatness of the olive tree. That seems to be the problem. They want to take of the fatness of the root and everything, but not to have part of it. We're our own separate little thing over here. We're our own nation. We're our own divided. Romans 11:18, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root you. Thou wilt say then the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Oh man, this fits right into this whole situation that we see in Christianity. Israel is no more. We are Israel now. We've taken that place of them. They're out here, after all, they killed Christ. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. And thou standest by faith, be not high-minded, but fear. For if Elohim spared not the natural branches, take heed, lest he not spare you. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Yahweh on them which fell, severity. But towards you, goodness, if thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou shalt also be cut off. Romans 11:23 going on, and they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for Elohim is able to graft them in again. We still have that freedom all the way up until the judgment day. We have that opportunity to be grafted into, either if we are of the seed physically, to be grafted back into your olive tree, but as out here being grafted in from a wild olive branch. For if thou were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these which be the natural branches be grafted into their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceit, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Did it really say, until the fullness of the Gentiles' message make you all Sunday keepers? Or not following God's covenants? Or following a new covenant? Genesis 32:11, going back to our Torah portion, says, deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. And thou said, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. He's reminding God and reminding himself. He says, you've made a promise, not only to me, but to my great-grandfather back there. And he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau his brother, 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, and 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their coats, 40 kine, and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 foals. That's quite a amount of animals. And that's like today, money. That was their money, because they used it for bargaining and trading, and also for the very life and so forth. And he delivered them to the hand of his servant. Every drove by themselves, and said unto his servant, pass over before me, and put a space between the drove and the drove. I'm going to space them out. We're going to overwhelm him with my kindness. Going on in Genesis 32, and he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau my brother meets you, and ask you, saying, whose art thou? And whither go thou? And whose are these before these? Then thou shalt say, they be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my master Esau. And behold, also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that followed the drove, saying, on this matter shall you speak unto Esau when you find him. And say you, moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I I will appease him with the presence that goes before me, and afterwards I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept of me. Trying to soften him up a little bit with all these gifts. But of course, he reminded God and said, now you told me to go, and you told me that you were going to take care of me. Well, you know, you might think, well, your faith is kind of weak. But though in reality, he acted upon his faith. If he had run back the other way and went and hid, that'd been a little different. But he said, I'm going to take you at his word, but I'm going to go. Remember, faith is a verb. It's an action. So went the president over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night, and he took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford. Yabak means place of emptying, to spread out as a fruitful vine. And he took them and he sent them over the brook and set over them that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. Interesting. Couple of things here. That he couldn't prevail. This man, we're saying a man, but was it really a man? Yet he couldn't prevail over Jacob. Interesting. He says, okay, I'm going to touch you on your thigh. You're going to change your walk. We might think, well, man, that's a bad thing. You have to go around the rest of life like this. Is that really what it was? In the physical, yes, but in the spiritual, what was it? He was correcting his walk, his way, that he was following the Father. Up until now, he's had it, pretty easy. Had a mother and father that pretty much took care of him, gave him basically all the things he needed, and so on and so forth. Through his mother, he got the birthright, and so on and so forth. So these are things that, up until this point, that he really hasn't earned. So it had been pretty well given to him for who he was and where he come from. So maybe we could look at our own walk. Is it the walk of our mother and dad? And so that's the reason that we're walking this way. Have we accepted all of the good things and the promises and cried and griped about the bad things? Jacob had come to a place called Yabak. In Hebrew means pouring out or emptying. How about the emptying of oneself? Because this is the only time that God can really work on you. Is when you pour out yourself. You take all of that selfness out of you. With his family and possessions relocated, Jacob was alone. He realized that his human strength and abilities were not enough. Don't we sometimes think that, oh God, we got this. We got it. It's all right. I can do it. Yeah. His diplomacy, his works, his riches, and all he had accumulated could not save him. He came to a place where every human effort and resource had to be surrendered. Jacob gave up trying to do everything in his own strength. He gave up trying to pretend. Ooh, wow. Do we sometimes pretend? Have we really surrendered ourselves? says there's nothing wrong with using one's own intelligence and talents, but anointing comes through humility, holiness, and a surrendered heart. Only then can the infilling of the Holy Spirit lead our lives. I think that we can apply that to our own personal lives. He's calling for us to get out of ourselves, to allow the Holy Spirit, allow the leading of God in your life. Sometimes we say, well, I can take care of this, but God, you'll need to take care of this big one back here, but I'll take care of this. It really brought it home to me, even the small things that we need to turn over to God. Back to Genesis 32:26. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. He said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. You think that this angel didn't know his name? Yeah, who did you say you are? Yeah. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with Elohim and with men, and hast prevailed. As the old saying goes, he doesn't promise us a rose garden. He says you're going to go through these things, but by the power within that he gave you with Elohim. Because that's our daily struggle, isn't it? Not only with the physical things of the world, but the spiritual things. Because there truly is a spiritual attack upon all of God's people. We, as watchmen on the wall, ought to know that. We ought to see these things and blow the trumpet and say, hey, look at this. Fortify your minds, fortify your bodies. Hosea 12:3. He took his brother by the heel in the womb, and by his strength he behaves himself princely. He had power with Elohim. Yea, he had power over the angel and prevailed. He wept and made supplication unto him. He found him in Bethel, and there he spake with us. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, where is it thou ask after my name? And he blessed him there. He never told him his name, did he? Yeah. We can see that name talked about in Revelation. The wonderful, the mighty God, the everlasting one. Jacob called the name of that place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. What is this word all about? It's the very word that's spoken on the day of Yom Kippur. It's when that the high priest comes face to face with Yahweh. Him standing behind the veil on the day of atonement. The very thing that Moses had at least two encounters like that. One at the burning bush, and the other as he come down off the mountain. So much so that he had to wear a veil to veil the glory of Yahweh. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him. Interesting. And he halted upon his thigh. Turn face to the sun. S-O-N. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. It's in Malachi 4:2. Hosea 12:5. Even Yahweh Elohim of hosts, Yahweh is his memorial. Therefore turn thou to thy Elohim, keep mercy and judgment, and wait on thy Elohim continually. Turn our face towards the sun, S-O-N. You know, that was the very thing that took place in Jeremiah, right? That he took and he showed him. It says, look what's going on in the temple. Well, that was Ezekiel, isn't it? It's in Ezekiel, I'm sorry. It says, look at what's going on here. It said, you got these men facing the sun, worshiping the sun. Their backs to God. And these women, they're baking cakes for the Queen of Heaven in the temple. Wow. So is he not calling us the same way today? Are there men that have their backs to the Elohim of creation, facing the sun, worshiping it more and more in this country? We see this going on. Exodus 3:13. And Moses said unto Elohim, behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, the Elohim of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, what is his name? What shall I say unto them? This is in Exodus. Remember when he calls Moses, and he tells him to go. He said, well, who do I say sent me? And Elohim said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you. If you look into that I am, that is all encompasses of all of the things of Yahweh. His presence, his protection, his provisions, his all these types of things are wrapped up in I am. I am the thing that could ever be from the very beginning to the very end. I am it. And Elohim said moreover unto Moses, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, the Elohim of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Hallelujah. Yet it's so plain there. Yet we want to substitute, call him Lord and Jesus and so on and so on. I think I'm within my hour, but we are going over because some of the other things was later. Just a couple of things here that I would like to go ahead and says. John 8:53-58. Art thou greater than our father Abraham, which is dead? This is the interaction with Yeshua with the people of Israel, the leaders of Israel. Says, art thou greater than our father Abraham, which is dead, and the prophets are dead? Whom make thou thyself? And Yahweh answered, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honors me, of whom you say that he is your Elohim. Yet you have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say I know him not, I shall be a liar to you, but I know him and keep his sayings. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Wow. Then said the Jews unto him, thou art not 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham? You should have said unto him, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Wow. I am the I am. Colossians 1:9. For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you and to desire that you might be fulfilled or filled with knowledge of his will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that you might walk worthy of the Master unto all pleasings, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of Elohim, strengthened with all might according to his majestic power, unto all patience and long-suffering with joyfulness, giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light. Do you feel like that you are a partaker of the inheritance? Have you been grafted in? And so you have an inheritance. Who hath delivered us from the power of darkness and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible Elohim, the firstborn of all creation. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible. Whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him. And that's a powerful, powerful thing. Because we see so many people out there, scientists and all these well-educated people. No, nobody created it. It was a big bang. It happened. Or it was this little amoeba, and he crawled up on the ground one day and decided to stand up. For he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the assembly, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence. For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell, and having made peace through the blood of his stake, by him to reconcile all things unto himself. By him, I say, whether they be in things in earth or things in heaven. You know, that speaks of what we talked about last week in the Torah portion, where it was talking about the binding of things on earth and binding of things in heaven. How that has been misconstrued and mistranslated. That if you're the Pope or whatever, you have the authority to bind, whatever you bind here is bound in heaven. He's the one that binds things on earth in heaven, Yeshua, not any man on this earth. We have no power to change God's word. Said if you do, I'm going to add to you the plagues. And you that were sometimes alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now hath he reconciled in the body of his flesh through death, to present you holy and unblameable and unreprovable in his sight. If, wait a minute, there's that little word. If you continue in the faith, grounded and settled, and be not moved away from the hope of the good news which you have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven. There's always that little if word there, right? Genesis, I'm going to skip to Genesis 35:1. I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and read this. This is Ephesians 3. Of course, we don't like but two here, and I'm going to finish up. Ephesians 3:14. For this cause I bow my knees unto the Father of our Master Yeshua the Messiah, of whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named, that he would grant you according to the riches of his majesty to be strengthened with might by his Spirit in the inner man, that the Messiah may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of the Messiah, which passes knowledge, that you might be filled with all the fullness of Elohim. This should be our prayer every day. Every day. Dwell in your hearts by faith and be rooted and grounded in His love and in His word. That's why that we study all the scriptures from beginning to end. Make all the connections, because it's all one book. And we're going to finish with Genesis 35:1. This is in the Torah portion, the last part of it. And Elohim said unto Jacob, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make there an altar unto El, that appeared unto thee when thou fled from the face of Esau thy brother. Remember, this was the place of Jacob's ladder, right? It was Bethel. It says, go back to there and rise up an altar there. Go full circle. Then Jacob said unto his household and to all that were with him, Put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments. Wow. I guess they was walking around in a bunch of dirty dresses, I guess, and he told them, said, hey, you better go laundry those things and clean them up. Was that really what he was saying? Is that really what he's talking about? No, he says, change your garments, change your way of thinking, change your way of walking in this thing. Because he says, get rid of all the strange gods that are among you and be clean. Remember it said, if there's defilement in the camp, I'm not going to walk in there. Change your garments. Put on the righteous garments of Yeshua. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make thee an altar unto El, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. And they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all the earrings which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. You think maybe that had to do with these strange gods? Because we know that there are, in connection to these ornaments, strange gods. Does that maybe speak to us today? Maybe are we wearing ornaments that we shouldn't be? Because you read about where that when who was it? They overthrew the Ishmaelites, and they were taking the ornaments and everything, and it says that these ornaments was on their horses and camels. Gideon. And he took and he melted them all down. But they got him in trouble, didn't they? And these ornaments, when you really track it back, they were moon in the shape of the moon goddess that they wore, the Ishmaelites wore on their camels and on their being. And Gideon told him, says, well, I don't want any of the booty, but I do want those right there, because they're made out of gold. And we'll take and melt them down, and we'll make something to God. Whoa. That story has been told before, right? How about at the mountain? Give me your earrings. Let me melt them down, and we'll fashion a God, and we'll have a feast tomorrow for the God of heaven. Something that we really need to look at. We live in a world that's full of all kinds of gods and things that we maybe didn't recognize as gods or part of God's worship, of other gods' worships. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. I hope that that we learn something from all of this stuff. If it's something that we didn't learn, then we're wasting our time. If we don't apply it to our lives and try to be overcomers and to be the people that God wants us to be and brought us into this world to be. So let's say Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Thank you for watching a teaching from Emet HaTorah. If you are ever in the Odessa area, we would love to welcome you to our Shabbat service, 11 a.m. every Sabbath. For more information or for more teachings, feel free to find us on the web, www.emethatorohodessa.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Thank you. God bless you and your family. Shalom.